for a better future.
Welcome to episode 10 of Between God and Us, a program between Master Eric of The Untold Truth and myself, Omkar of Sankhya TV, where we discuss everything in creation, basically. And Master Eric, once again, it's a pleasure to be here.
Same here, Omkar.
And today we have a broadly discussed but very little understood topic.
Right. And last week we briefly touched energy.
Yeah.
And we will go into that. But before we go more into energy, we got to understand how the energy passes through the chakras. What are the chakras? And what do you think chakra means? The word chakra.
I think chakra means wheel.
Energy center.
Energy center.
Energy centers. But before we start, I almost forgot. Sitaram, assalamu alaikum, Sairam, and good evening, everyone. It's energy centers within the body. Now, and this is one of the few rare times you're going to see me with notes.
Yeah. Because
I want to make sure I don't make a mistake when I get into specifics about each chakra. But humanity, sometimes, Omkar, I think humans are dotish. And the reason I mean that is because why would people think that chakras is religious based? It has nothing to do with religion. Right. If you have a Christian, they have chakras. If you have a Jew, they have chakras. You have Africa, anywhere in the world, they have the chakras. It has nothing to do with religion. It technically has nothing to do, it's only spiritual. God gave us chakras for certain reasons. And if we don't know about it, how can we benefit from it? And tonight we're going to go over each one. If we don't get through all of them tonight, we'll go into it next week. But how does it benefit us spiritually? How does it benefit us physically? And what parts of the body is influenced by each one? And then why do they write down saying, this one has 4 petals, this one has 16 petals, this one has 96 petals? And then people's probably wondering, why are you even telling me about petals? Right? Mm-hmm. We're going to get into that. There are serious specific reasons why they name how many petals is within a chakra.
Okay.
Now, the first chakra, and one of the most populars, and I'm going to say it in the English name. Why? Is because there's a wide, big audience that's viewing this program.
Yeah.
There's going to be people from many countries. So once you keep it within the English frame, more people are apt to understand because that's what they see on the internet. Now, the information that you're going to get tonight, people, is way beyond the internet. I'm giving out specifics. A lot of people say I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Why? People need to know. Yeah. So if you have a paper and pencil at home and you want to make your notes, or you could replay the program and write it again. But it's very important, people, to uplift yourself spiritually. Now, what I mean by that, if you learn to meditate, your chakras need to be balanced. They need to be aligned. If they are not open properly, you're going to find out tonight, what if they're open too much or not enough? What are the effects that you're going to feel within your body from each chakra? Okay? Yeah. And when you open all the way up to the crown chakra, that makes, just think of a highway. Do you like driving on a crowded highway, or do you like driving on the highway when nobody's on it?
And nobody there?
Exactly. That's the same thing as when you're trying to meditate. when your chakras are perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
You're just going like the highway. And it makes it a lot more simpler. So the first chakra, everyone, is the root chakra. Everybody hears of the root chakra.
Yeah.
And the root chakra, the spinal location of it from the back, is right below the pelvic bone. So it's right below the pelvic bone in the back.
Right.
The color is brilliant orange to red. It depends on how it's set, whether it's open too much or too closed. Now, what people don't understand, the energy of prana, when it comes up through your chakras, this is where it begins. This is where everything starts.
Right.
Okay? Now, how many petals does the root chakra have? It's 4. 4 petals, that's it. Very simple. Now, what organs of your body or system within the body is influenced by the root chakra, whether it's open, too close, or not? 1, your digestive system. So people, you might have a medical issue, but if you are having a digestive problem, but the doctor is saying he's really not finding anything, he's not seeing anything, then you may want to come and get your chakra adjusted. So your digestive system, which links up between your stomach and the rectum. Your immune system. Your immune system is also influenced by the root chakra. Circulatory system. Your circulation within your body is also influenced by your root chakra. Bones, the strength of your bones, the weakness of your bones, everything like that is also influenced by the root chakra and connective tissue. So then the question always comes up, what could happen when the root chakra is not functioning properly? It's not balanced, it's offline. What could happen? You might have the need for more satisfaction of your desires. It may kick up your desires to be more influenced and tempted by your desires because it's not balanced.
Yeah. To the level of being an addiction?
Almost.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, there are people, it's kind of funny you say that, and I got to watch what I say on TV. But I've had people come,
Right.
Omkar, that when I checked them, the root chakra was wide open. Now, when I say wide open, way too much. One of the symptoms they had, they could not get, and don't laugh, they could not get no satisfaction from sex.
Okay.
They could do it 30, 40 times a day and not get enough
Yeah.
because it was totally wide open. But once we made the adjustment, they saw that decrease to where they're balanced again, to where they're normal.
Yeah.
They're not having that. So addictions can be enhanced by chakras.
Okay.
And we'll go over that,
Yeah.
right? Eating disorders.
Yeah.
This is from the root chakra. Frequent illnesses due to the immune system. So if you see a person that always is getting colds, the cough, the sniffles, this is one thing you need to look at. This is where we would check the root chakra and we would see, yes, it's off a little bit.
Yeah.
And we make the adjustment. Now you start seeing this person not getting sick as often. So it's they might have immune disorder too, but a lot of times it's the chakras. Okay? Now, what can happen to the root chakra when it's over functioning? We just talked when it's not functioning, right? Now, overweight, it might cause being overweight.
Right.
So obesity due to overeating. Remember, this kicks that desire to eat,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So then some people may say, oh, well, they're just a habitual eater.
Right.
But that may not be the case, okay? Some people, they start saying, okay, my body isn't producing the right insulin, so that's why I can't get rid of the belly fat,
Yeah.
right? That may not be true. It may be that the root chakra is not functioning or over functioning properly. Now, it may lead to excessive greed, fear, insecurity, addictions of various types.
Yeah.
Okay? So I want people to understand that when you are not aligned, you are susceptible to these symptoms. Now, some people say, and it's happened in the past, there's been people that brought their kids, teenagers, and they're addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And there's been some that's really addicted to alcohol.
Yeah.
And when we've made these adjustments with the chakras, do you know that addiction went away?
Okay.
Because addiction also becomes a habit. And the hardest part of, like smoking,
Yeah.
when people want to quit smoking, right, they can mentally curb the desire. But the problem they have is the habit, the routine of holding it, having it in the mouth. You understand?
Yeah.
You have to break all of these one time,
Yeah.
and you can be successful.
Yeah.
Okay? The root chakra represents the present body with its past karmas.
Okay.
So this is what people don't understand also. That came with you,
Okay.
your past karmas.
Right.
Now it is there waiting to mature within. A lot of people say, boy, this had to come from my past. But nobody has the idea where, how it came through and stays in your root chakra. Okay? Now, this is one that you have to have perfectly adjusted when you try to meditate. This is where everything begins. The next thing that the root chakra also affects, if it's off balance or not adjusted, is those who want to or get the Shakti manifestation. Do you know that you can tell a big difference between a manifestation of those who have their chakras adjusted and those who don't? The balance is not there. You'll see them sporadically going everywhere, right?
Right.
They're not balanced. And when you start balancing a person to allow that Shakti to come in 100%, not 10%, not 20%, you do it through the chakras. And the chakras has so many benefits. There's been pundits that come to me.
That's all right. So when you have the chakras adjusted and the person manifests, then it's like
The energy can come up a lot smoother.
but then the person
And
is
it's
more,
balanced.
like let's say the manifestation is more sociable, like to talk to them and
That's
interact.
sociable. A lot of Shaktis, when they manifest, are very serious.
Yeah. No, what I mean is like the when you told me about the first time you went to the Kali temple and the manifestation did not want to drink from one of them.
Correct.
They drank from you. So they talk, it said no
And
I want
number
from
two, when you're balanced, you're going to feel that energy, Omkar.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in your mind that that is a real manifestation. But most of the people you go up to, you don't feel it like that.
No. So there's
Because
sporadic
the energy is not channeling.
So that's what I mean. It's like the one that you gave the offering to compared to a sporadic one. That's the difference.
Oh, total night and day.
Yeah.
And that person later, they did get to know me after that.
Yeah.
And they came and got their chakras adjusted, and boy, they're good.
Yeah.
Right? And then the full manifestation, what the body can handle, can come.
Right.
But you're not seeing it. Why? A lot of people don't know this. They don't know how to adjust the chakras. Now, one thing I want people to understand, you cannot, well, people do, but it's not advised.
Right.
You cannot adjust or manipulate chakras with equipment, like machines. No.
Right.
You are mixing a manufactured energy with a pure energy.
Right.
So over time, you're going to have side effects. So those who know how to actually physically adjust the chakras,
Right.
you are using prana to prana.
Right.
It's pure, right? It's not machine manufactured.
Right.
Now, some people use crystals
Right.
to adjust chakras or find out the status of chakras. That's good to identify, but not to adjust.
Okay.
Because the adjustments had to be physically done and then set. You have to set that chakra after you make the adjustment.
Right.
Now, when you make the adjustments, and I'm telling you people, it's always advised that you have a guru or somebody that's highly trained to adjust your chakras. Just don't listen to things on YouTube. I've had to repair a lot of people because they had severe side effects from trying to open up their chakras the way YouTube was telling them.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say, find somebody that knows what they're doing. Now, what could happen, and research it when you leave here.
Yeah.
What can happen if you open your chakras drastically too much at one time? You can go mad.
Yeah.
You'll go insane.
You know, your
And
system,
then people's wondering, how are we going to get them back?
Yeah.
Right? This is where the training of a guru comes in.
Yeah.
Right? And you do certain amounts at a time.
Yeah.
You cannot just take it like a water spigot and turn it.
Well, it's like overloading an electrical circuit because your nervous
It'll
system,
blow.
Yeah, it's like
Correct.
an electrical circuit.
Shut down.
Yeah, burn down the whole circuit.
And that's what the body does. Right? So this is what we just covered, one chakra.
Yeah.
Okay? Now let's go to the second chakra. And there are different names, but the reason I gave it this name, and some people in the world gives it this name also, it's called the middle sex chakra. Okay? Now, that's the second chakra. The spinal location, everybody, the location of it on the backside of your body, is just 1/8 of an inch above your first lumbar. That's where that one is.
Okay.
The frontal location, if you want to make the adjustment in the front, is midpoint below the navel. Okay? The color is vermilion. That's the color of this one. And the number of petals is 6. Now, why is this one so important? So when you work on the middle sex, that's right here, right around the belly button. Now, women who cannot conceive. Now, This is where we work. Now, with the second chakra off of the middle sex chakra, around this chakra, you have 9 subchakras. Now, what happens is, a lot of times, the reproductive system in a woman is not producing the right amount of eggs, or they're producing, but they're not healthy eggs. Now, the reproductive system is at a lower energy level. So now what we have to do is make the adjustment to counteract that and start producing more healthy eggs.
All right.
So when we do this, and I show the husband what to do with the 9 subchakras around this one, do you know we have a 90% success rate when doctors said it was not possible for them to conceive? They conceived, and they had healthy children.
Yeah.
By just doing this. See, medical is very important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to make the adjustments on the spiritual side too, to influence your organs and the reproductive system.
Okay.
So,
well, as you made that point, you seek medical first and then look at the chakras after. What you would advise then?
no, normally, because you know we do full body scans,
Right.
and we'll have a program on that too.
Yeah.
And you've actually experienced it so far.
Yeah.
Now you got to get your report. I do like to take a look at what is the present status of the follicle ovary cells that's inside the ovaries. I also like to look at the ovaries. I like to look at the uterus, the cervix, going all the way down in. Make sure there's no fibroids or anything like that. The fallopian tubes. I like looking at everything on the scan. And once you see that everything's normal, but you'll see with the follicle ovary cells that it may not be producing the right amount of eggs.
All right.
So now we know what to do.
Yeah.
And we can start making the adjustments.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Now, if there was a medical issue, we can repair it with our machines, or they may be referred, if it's a drastic problem, of getting medical, maybe minor surgery.
Yeah.
You understand? So everybody has to work together.
Yeah.
You know, whatever solution that needs to be done.
Okay.
Okay? Now, with the middle sex, the organs that are influenced, kidneys. So a lot of people that has weak kidneys, you can adjust this chakra to give more energy to your kidneys. Okay?
Okay.
Now, your urinary bladder, reproductive organs, what we just talked about,
all right,
and your large intestine is all influenced by this chakra.
Right.
So then, what's the primary?
By large intestine, that includes the colon.
No, the colon actually comes under another one.
Okay.
It divides the organs.
Right.
Right? So now, all the people listening out here, especially men, if you have problems, the primary function of this chakra is it's the center for sexual energy. Okay? Source of pure emotion and the regulator of relationships. So now, those people, and we've done numerous cases, Omkar. Some men,
right,
because of conditions, they have problems having an erection.
Right.
They call it ED, erectile dysfunction. And they've been checked and everything, and nothing's really working. And remember, this isn't down there, so when I make the adjustment, I don't have to go down there. I go to this chakra. And I had a man, a boy, well, not a boy, he He was 34 years old. And he had this problem. And he had it for 6 years. And his wife left him.
Okay.
He was distraught.
Yeah.
And he come and he saw me and he says, is there anything we could do? And I said, well, there's not a prayer for it. There's not a mantra for it. I mean, but what we can do, we could adjust your chakra. Right. And you will know by morning if it worked. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 adjustments.
Yeah.
But in his case, when I made the adjustment, he went home and he called the next morning. And I was kind of stunned, but then I could relate to him. He was crying. And he said, it's kind of funny, but it's working. And he said, because of this, he lost his wife. And he loved his wife, but he couldn't perform. And he said, you mean this is all it took? And he says, why wasn't he told before? And that's a good question, Omkar. Why don't the religious leaders know more about this? To where you could advise. Now, if they can't make the adjustment, why wouldn't they be pure enough and spiritual enough to say, hey, but I know somebody who can make the adjustment?
Yeah.
To help the people. Because a lot of people do mash up their marriage because of these situations.
Yeah.
Or not having children. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
You know, so there's a lot of reasons why people need to know about this. And so that they can overcome these things. Now, again, people, I have to enforce, if you don't have a guru that is very knowledgeable in this, please seek and find one. If you can't find one, I always say, Omkar, that everybody should try their religious leaders first. Always ask them.
Yeah.
Get advice from their spiritual leader. And if they can't, then give us a call. Mm-hmm. And we'll be glad to check them out and work it. Now, the next one.
Yes, no, I remember I said that in an earlier episode that it only have about 4 or 5 people in the world that could really adjust.
That truly adjust chakras.
Yeah.
Right. And I actually was blessed to be taught that. Right. Otherwise, I would be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And say, well, try to do the sound or try to do this to open and close. But Omkar, that is not effective. You know, how are you going to regulate a sound? What if you open too much when you do it? See, this is where I keep saying, get a guru. Get somebody that's highly trained in this and know what you're doing so you do not get no side effects. Yeah. It is very important. So now we just covered 2 chakras. Yeah. Am I talking too much?
No. Well, I know there's plenty of information.
Because I know it's about half the program, we've only got to 2. Yeah. So we might have to extend into another program. Yeah. Now the next one is called, the English name is navel chakra.
All right.
Okay? Now, the spinal location, and you don't see this. This is from 33 years worth of experience. You actually find the general location, what scholars tell you, but when you actually go in and do the adjustments, you see it's slightly off. Okay. So the spinal location of the navel chakra is above the 10th thoracic frontal location. So right above the 10th thoracic is where that's located. In the front, it's your navel.
Right.
Okay? Now the color is a orange and could be yellow in between the 2. That's the color of that one.
Okay.
The petals, as you see, we had 4, 6, it's 10.
Okay.
Now, with the center of the petals, the center, looks like a radiant jewel. If you have the ability to see, if you can see auras, there's a lot of viewers out here that can see people's auras, right? They would be able, if they knew where to look, it's like a jewel. And that jewel will fluctuate between orange and yellow. And that's what gives you the indication of how it's adjusted. That's one of the few that has what they call the jewel in the middle of the petals.
Okay.
So which organs are influenced by this chakra? One, the pancreas, the spleen, the gallbladder, small intestines, and your nervous system.
Okay.
So if a person has a nervous problem, yes, there could be a medical issue. But if the doctors come up and say they're not finding anything, it could be that the chakra is not open or closed properly. It's not balanced.
Okay.
Okay? Now, what's the primary function of this chakra? One, tolerance. So if people have no patience at all, they have no tolerance, as soon as you adjust this, you start seeing a decrease in that.
Yeah.
Okay, it helps the person. Self-esteem, power, and most of all, ego.
Okay.
So in spirituality, we cannot have ego. You have to be humble. You have to understand that you might have a little more knowledge, but then the person might have some knowledge in another area you don't have. So you got to be humble and learn from everybody that comes to you also. If you can't do that, and everything is I, watch TV, you're going to hear them. I did this, I do that. There is no I in spirituality. It's we. Everything is we. We talked about that at the beginning when we started the program. That when you call me and you don't have nobody in the car, you're supposed to tell me, we're on our way. We'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
We, you and God. Everything we do is with God. Okay? Now, what can happen if the navel chakra is not functioning properly? Right? You're going to be tired all the time. Low energy. Okay? Poor self-esteem. They could go into minor depressions quite a bit.
Right.
Okay? And the next one is they're not reliable. They're always late. Time doesn't really matter to people when this chakra is not adjusted properly or balanced. So can you start to see, and we're not even out of this one yet, can you see where chakras isn't just for spiritual? God made it one way to enhance the energy of other parts of our body.
Yeah.
And it's critical that people understand that, the benefits of adjusting your chakra.
Now, something I was thinking about is two things. So like irregular, when you have an irregular circadian rhythm, or your circadian rhythm off, it could be related to this, or that is another?
No, it's another chakra. And that would be the heart chakra.
Okay. And
I've done that before with doctors, and that's proven.
Okay.
Okay, when we get to that, which might be next time, but I'll just give you a little story. This guy came, and he said, the doctors here in Trinidad said he needed open heart surgery.
Right.
So he come and he says, what do you think? And when I checked him, I said, I don't see that. But what I see is that the back of your heart is swollen, and that needs to come down. And when you breathe, that is pressing, and that's causing the pain. But I said, how much does the surgery cost down here? And it was over $200,000. So I told him, I said, you know what? Here's my advice. Here's one of the best doctors in Miami, one of the best doctors with heart. I would take a portion, 20,000 TT, or a little more, and go up there and get his opinion. I said, it may take 3 weeks, and it was about 3.5 weeks. They got an appointment. They flew up. He called down, and he told me, he said, but I didn't know you guys had the equipment in Trinidad. He said, your diagnosis was spot on. And he said, they have medication and everything to shrink down the swelling.
Right.
But he said he needs a pacemaker to regulate the heartbeat better.
Yeah.
Right? And so I told him, I said, go ahead, but can you put it on the lowest setting to stabling, but not be perfect? He said, that defeats the purpose. He goes, why? What are you going to do? I said, you may not know about it, but I want to adjust his heart chakra to give his heart more energy. Right? He goes, you know, the board of the hospital is looking into this, and they've done studies from India and Tibet and China on the benefits of the body of adjusting chakras. But they never knew anybody that did it. So he said, yes, we'll do this. And he put in the pacemaker where you could monitor it from away. And when he did, he came back down. I started adjusting. It took 3 adjustments. And when I made the adjustments, they retested and they waited and watched for a period of time. Right on the money.
Yeah.
And so went back up, took out the pacemaker, and he's good.
Yeah.
So God intended for us to have this. He intended for us to utilize it. So why would you want your heart to do all the work all the time without assistance? It puts a strain on the heart. But when you have the chakra feeding energy to the heart, it benefits and takes a lot less work off the heart. Okay?
The other one was, well, you mentioned energy. So what about things like people who suffer from hypoglycemic conditions where they just run out of energy? You know, like the sugar just drops off, and some people faint and whatever. That's related to the...
That goes here. Low esteem, weak, lack of energy.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, you know, the doctors will look at different things, even the thyroid. You know, is that what's causing the low energy?
Yeah.
Right? But again, once you do your medical test and everything comes out properly, start looking at this.
Okay.
You'll start seeing it. Because if the chakra is reversed to where it should be, it's going to pull instead of give. Okay. So it's taken away instead of giving and stabilizing.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
Now, this is where people get confused. They always think your energy goes up and keeps climbing up until it reaches your crown chakra and goes out of the crown chakra.
All right.
And that's where your spiritual connection starts to happen. But that is not so. So let me give the public the real truth. So those of you that are getting Shakti, or you speak in tongues, and you're having a time because you can't get balanced, you don't know the energy flow, you don't know how to channel the energy flow, you need to come. Because here's what. The liberating current of energy rises from the first, the root chakra,
right,
to the second. Whereas, so it rises from the first to the second. Whereas Energies from the upper chakras, 4, 5, and 6, travel downwards. Now, the combination of both energies meet at that point, at the third chakra, which we just covered. Now they form the power to start rising all the way up. So this is not being taught. So when you're doing advanced yoga, you're doing meditation, everything else, they always say focus on the root, focus on the next, focus on the next. You're going to get flatline. You're not going to get out of this body to another dimension. You'll stay within this dimension, right? But when you understand how the energy flows, and so this one's coming up, these are coming down, not the third eye,
Right.
and not the crown chakra. I'm talking from the throat coming down.
Right.
They come down, they meet at the third chakra, now they join force and comes up. That's where the true power comes from. Okay, so I don't want people to get confused in how the flow happens.
Well, I'm thinking, like if you understand like sound or wiring or plumbing, you'll understand, like you have two separate supplies of, let's say, water, like 4 tanks. But they flow to one junction, which is the navel, and then from there they go to the house.
And what happens when that junction gets plugged?
Yeah, well, then the whole system stops, like...
Bingo.
Yeah.
But then when you have a problem with the plumb, what do you call? The plumber.
Yeah.
Same thing with here. You call the person who can adjust the chakras.
Yeah.
Now, to get connected to the universe at large, people, I'm not just talking one little part. I'm talking within the whole universe. You need to understand visualization within meditation.
Right.
That is very important. Understanding all the different ways you can communicate with God.
Okay.
Through your chakras. There are many different ways. Everybody's taught that you have to go through the crown chakra or the third eye to connect with God. But that's not true. Now, you have to separate the existence of the individuality of yourself to master chakras. So what I mean by that, do we identify ourselves as I? Or do we identify ourselves as the body? Or do we identify ourselves as the personality? Or do we identify ourselves as the soul? But in order to identify yourself as the soul, you already have to have a connection.
Okay.
So, where are people now? We need to assess that before you start making the adjustments. Because the adjustments also have to be in sync with your mentality.
Okay.
What if your brain tells it to shut down? But your superconsciousness is saying, yes, open it. Let me come up. But your body's not used to it. This is where knowledge comes in. You don't want your physical mind to restrain and go against your superconsciousness. You're going to have a conflict.
Yeah.
And then how is your body going to receive and benefit from the energy from the chakras if your mind don't want it to?
Yeah.
This is beyond the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where education, training, practicing, and guess what? I think we would have a lot more healthy people walking around this earth than what we have now.
Okay.
Now, the medical profession won't like it, but do we care what they like if people are getting their help? No. Now, We've got a few more, we got 15 minutes.
As you mentioned that, because I was thinking to put it out to people, how that will happen is like, let's say for example, you have a certain religious belief. Like for example, Christians, who will, as an example, I'm not picking on Christians, but as an example, and they may think, that's like a possession or the devil or something.
No, but this isn't just for Shakti.
No, I'm talking about where you say the mind doesn't want to change, but the spiritual, the superconscious is saying yes, channel the energy, but the mind is thinking, like you have a social condition, and then so what is happening to you is in conflict for what you think you are compared to the superconsciousness and chakra opening.
See, I think people try to read in it more than what it really is.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that, I was a Christian, and that's more or less how they think.
Yeah.
Right? But then, Jesus Christ was a master at this. Mm-hmm. He was a master. When he went up and meditated in the garden, that's when the devil tempted him. Mm-hmm. But he had that challenge you're talking about. He was questioning, why does he have to go through this? Because he was still in a human body. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, he even countered what he asked, saying, but if it's thy will or thy Father, I shall do.
Yeah.
But then here comes the devil to tempt him, right? And he said, I'll give you the world if you just go with me. I know who you are. I can give you everything that you need. But you still had the physical desire. Your mental mind would be tempted. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he didn't fall for that. Why? He stayed within this.
Yeah.
And that gave him the strength. And from that day forward, he never questioned.
Yeah.
But he had to go through that to achieve and be a master over that. And this is what people don't understand. And so there's always a pull and a tug between God and our physical mind. Because our physical mind is not trained in spirituality. It's trained society, history, what we go through. So that's why I always ask people, why do you limit yourself? Why? Because there is no limit in spirituality. You can do anything in this world you want to do as long as you put your heart, mind, and soul into it.
Yeah.
But society trains you to have limitations. So they try to tell you, you cannot be in this position in life or have this position in life if you don't have a college degree.
Yeah.
They tried to portray that. Now, college is fantastic and it's important. But on the other hand, there are many successful conglomerates in the world on the Fortune 500 stock market that never took college.
Yeah.
They had a dream.
Yeah.
They had this invention they wanted to make. Again, society kept telling them, you can't do this. You're stupid for trying to do this. But they're one of the richest people in the world because they followed that guidance, not what man said. So this is where these chakras, if they're balanced, gives you that edge of calmness, stability, balance. Okay? So, the word, what do you think the word ego means? And where did the word ego come from? I'm racking your head now.
Yeah.
Where do you think the word ego came from?
I don't know.
It's Greek.
Okay.
Ancient Greek. Where the E stands for I.
Okay.
And no means I. So there's no relation between them. So what I mean is, because the ego and the non-ego goes hand in hand. So in reality, instead of saying I, energy in the universe is not singular.
Right.
It's dual. Positive, negative.
All right.
Electricity, electronics, positive, negative. So how could there be an I in existence?
Okay.
It can't. So that's why in spirituality we say there is no I. And there's a good book people could read. The book is called I Am That.
All right.
And it gives you all the scenarios of positive and negatives with I. And it's a good book to read.
Yeah.
So,
But look at it like that, right?
mhm.
So let's say me, so I, not positive and negative, but the other one would be what? God?
When you say we,
Yeah, when you say we. So the positive and negative, like,
it's you and God.
is you and God. Okay. Not negative, I don't mean negative in a negative sense, but in a dualistic sense.
So wouldn't we be the negative?
I don't know.
And he would be the
And
positive.
he'll be positive, yeah.
But that's why they always say we can't do anything properly. We wouldn't be totally successful without God in some way.
Yeah. Because like in an electrical sense, if you just have a positive running to any device without grounding, which is the negative, it doesn't
What
work.
happens?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
You can't just put positive power and don't ground. You have no circuit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like jumping a car.
Yeah.
Not actually jumping the car.
No, like if you take the
When you're
negative,
jumping with the sticks,
if you
right?
take the negative terminal off.
Now, when you put them on the terminals,
Yeah.
the proper way to jump is not to put negative and positive on one, and then negative and positive on the other.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have on one side the negative and positive, and then on the other side you put the positive on, but ground off the negative on the frame.
Yeah.
That way you don't hurt your electronics,
Yeah.
right? Same thing in spirituality. We have to have that relationship. We have to have that walk with God
Yeah.
in order for everything to be smooth. Okay? So, I could start the fourth chakra, but I think we don't have enough time. I only got 6 minutes.
Okay.
The fourth chakra, we're going to get into the heart.
But,
The chest.
all right, well, since we have 6 minutes, I want to go over a question I had about where you talk about, or the throat and the heart chakra comes down to the navel,
The energy.
the energy,
Right.
and then it travels up. So,
From the third chakra.
right, yeah, from the navel.
So 1 and 2
Yeah.
comes up. 4, 5 comes down.
Yeah,
They meet at 3.
yeah,
And just like electronics, when those two meet, boom,
yeah,
it comes up. And it comes up fast,
yeah.
right? So what's your question on that? It does. They meet and then go up.
Is it along the same channel? Because I think it's the nadi.
No, the nadis is your spiritual nervous system, right?
It's not the nadi.
Now you have a trunk,
Yeah,
a channel. Now, this is what I was trying to get from spiritual leaders out here, and I'm not getting the answer.
right.
A lot of people say, okay, this is the Kundalini,
Right,
okay? Energy is going to rise up the Kundalini.
right,
But there's not just one channel.
right.
Kundalini is one. So we'll ask the question and see if the viewers can write in. What is the second channel that the energy can come up. Which one is more powerful than the other? And this is where, when you learn energy, Omkar, energy is so important when it comes to your daily life, your professional job, with your children, spirituality, connecting with God, meditating. There are so many benefits of making sure that these channels, like you said, you don't like a crowded highway. You don't like what it's like when you leave here to drive south at night, right? Yeah. Takes forever, right?
Yeah.
But then you might hit an accident. So what happens to the flow? It stops. But you like it when it's 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. Boy, you can just fly right down the highway.
Yeah.
This is what you want. So this is where it's beneficial for all the viewers. And I know there's a lot of young people that's probably watching, and they've been yearning for this information. Why? It's not being taught. Now the question is why? Why is it not being taught? When this can benefit you in every aspect of your life, from having children, making sure you can perform, to the strength of your heart, your immune systems, the organs. We're going to go over all this, and we'll continue next week, because what are the benefits of the third eye? Wow. Wait till you hear this one.
Yeah.
But what other questions you have before we end for the night?
Well, that was the main one about the channels, because I was trying to figure it out now, like how the energy comes down there and moves up, because I was never taught, or you never come across the information where you need to send the heart energy down. They always
to unite.
Yeah.
You're uniting.
Yeah.
And then they merge together. So when you look at explosives,
right,
what happens when the explosive is charged? Before it goes out,
oh yeah,
it's an implosion.
yeah.
Then it goes to an explosion. Same thing here. So science and physics and everything that we do goes and stems off the same theory as what was written how many thousand years ago?
Yeah, well, in a way, it's the same principle that design energy. What I mean is
Exactly.
the same explosive energy for an explosion is the same explosive energy to give you that charge inside to send the
Correct.
energy up.
And then it goes up. So the implosion comes down, one comes up, boom, you go out. So I'm just not talking to talk. Yeah. This is the actual facts of this. And then next week we'll start with the heart chakra. And there's a lot of benefits for the heart chakra.
Yeah.
You know, but everybody, I know this program is a little different. The last two programs, when we talked about energy and we talked about this, it's more informational.
Yeah.
It's not much like with a story, but we threw some in here. And I hope you got some knowledge off of this and how important it is. Regardless of your age, there is no age limit to adjust the chakras.
Okay.
And they could actually elevate seniors also.
Yeah.
In what they do.
Do children need?
Children not below 12 years old.
Okay.
But as high as you could go, I've never seen a limit.
Because what I was wondering, like, you know, some children with behavior issues, or they're born with certain
it can be
ailments.
But that has to be actually, you have to do, you know, the check. You have to check the individual out and see if that is the case. Okay. And there has been cases where once in a blue moon, you will adjust a person under that age.
Okay.
But Omkar, it's been great being with you. And I want to thank the TV operators and everything here tonight. And everybody, I hope you have a safe and great week, and we will see you next week. Have a good night. The tools